Alright guys, welcome to my new series where I'm going to read crazy Reddit stories from funny to weird, creepy, dramatic, and much more, all while playing Minecraft in the background. So sit back and enjoy the chill gameplay, wild tales, and non-stop vibes. Without further ado, let's get straight into the first story. The first story is That's One Way to Scare Off Religious Solicitors by Puzzle-Headed Mind 7765. So back in 2011, I was majoring in theater arts at the local college. I was in my theatrical makeup class. It was one of the only classes I had on Fridays, and I frequently came home in whatever I had done that day in class to show my dad. It was the week of Halloween, and our teacher was teaching us bloodies, or gore makeup. And my horror-obsessed haunted house scare actor Fleet Street is the best stage blood boasting self was going wild. While most of the other students did a burn, a bruise, maybe a gash on the arm, I made myself look like straight roadkill that also got mauled by a bear. It was a lot, even enough to get me pulled over by a concerned campus cop. I went home covered in fake blood, looking like hell and loving it. My dad told me to keep it on so my niece and nephews could see it when they got home after school. They knew I had a makeup class, so I wasn't gonna scar them for life. So around 2:45 p.m., I hear a knock at the door. Well, I decide to answer like a zombie and make them laugh. I should note, I realize I should have probably checked to make sure it was them first. I answer the door slowly, dragging a foot behind me, moaning brains, to see two Jehovah's Witnesses go green and absolutely bolt back to their bikes. I literally was still processing what had just happened as they peeled around the corner and my brother showed up with the kids. To this day, my dad says he sees them actively avoid our door and once heard them refer to us as the home of the devil. Safe to say I don't think we're gonna get any religious solicitors anytime soon. That was interesting, but this next story is a little bit funnier. How I Accidentally Got Free Chicken and Eternal Shame in One Lunch Break by Creepy Novel 8529. So this happened a couple of years ago when I was still working at a downtown office job that made me question every life decision I ever made. I had a 30-minute lunch break and a craving that could only be satisfied by greasy fast food, the kind that shortens your lifespan but soothes your soul. I ran across the street to this local chicken joint that always had a suspiciously long line, but the food was so good, it had me willing to risk salmonella. I get to the counter, order a 3-piece combo with fries and a drink, and the cashier, a teenage dude fighting the will to exist, says, "That'll be $7.89, sir." I reach into my coat pocket for my wallet, and there was nothing. I check my pants, nope. Backpack, empty. Panic starts to set in. I look up and say, oh my god, I'm that guy. I left my wallet at the office. The cashier gives me a long stare, the kind that says he's about 3 seconds away from telling me to get out of the line. In my moment of crisis, I say, and I wish I were making this up, well, I could sing for my chicken. There was dead silence. Then this older lady behind me in line just says, let the man sing. Before I can back out, the cashier shrugged his shoulders and said, go ahead. So here I am, in front of about 8 people on their lunch break, delivering a full-blown dramatic rendition of Ain't No Mountain High Enough, like I'm auditioning for The Voice. People started clapping. One guy pulled out his phone. I'm pretty sure I saw tears in someone's eyes, probably from secondhand embarrassment, but still. When I finished, the cashier just slid the tray across the counter and said, it's on the house. I walked out with my chicken and my dignity at about 40%. To this day, I never go back in there without double checking my wallet. But hey, I got free lunch and a story that haunts me every time that song plays. I gotta admit, that one was pretty funny, but this next one gets a little bit dramatic. My neighbor's husband left today and it turned into a full-on soap opera. At first, I thought that someone left their TV too loud, but then I realized the yelling was real and it was coming from the outside. I peeked out my front window and saw my neighbor standing on the porch barefoot in her pajama pants and a tank top, screaming at her husband. He was dragging a giant suitcase to his car and completely ignoring her. She was yelling things like, so you're just gonna walk out after everything? Be a man for once and say it to my face. You'll regret this when she leaves you too. Yes, she. Not even 10 minutes after, the husband sped off, and I mean sped off. The tires were screeching, and another car pulls up, a silver BMW. Out steps her sister, dressed like she came from a casting for brunch in Beverly Hills. I'm not even kidding, my jaw dropped. The neighbor storms off the porch and yells, "Of course you show up now." The sister fires back with, "He needed someone who listens to him for once." Y'all, I choked on my iced coffee. They start going at it, yelling, finger pointing. My neighbor even pushes the sister's shoulder at one point. I had one foot out the door, ready to break it up in case it got physical. I'm texting my husband, trying to keep him updated on what's happening, and in the middle of all of this, my neighbor screams at her, "He was my husband, and you were supposed to be my sister." The sister responds in the calmest way after all of the yelling. "He told me you would do this." Then she straight gets into the car and leaves. I think my neighbor is just too shocked to do anything. She kind of just watches her leave. I'm thinking everything is starting to kick in at this point. After her sister left, she just stood on the porch for a solid 5 minutes and then went back inside. I'm thinking it's all over and that was enough excitement for one day. But nope. Half an hour later, I hear glass clinking around loudly out of my office window. I look past our side yard and onto the side of her fence. I'm upstairs, so I can see pretty much everything. She's outside again, this time tossing empty wine bottles into her trash one by one. She's doing it slowly and dramatically, as if she wanted someone to hear. She finally sat down on the curb and lit a cigarette. First time I've seen her smoke. My cat and I just sat in the window watching like it was a season finale. No one's been back to the house. Her husband's car is still gone. Her sister hasn't returned. She, my neighbor, closed all the blinds, and it's been silent ever since. I don't know if I just witnessed a cheating scandal, a sister betrayal, or a midlife crisis. Perhaps all three at once. But I do know that I'm making popcorn tomorrow in case there's a part 2. A few nights later, I decided to check on her. I brought a plate of pasta, some steak we made, and garlic bread. Nothing fancy, just something warm. My husband also made some brownies earlier today, so I had to add some of those, because she deserves some. Lol. I wasn't planning on staying long, or at all, just to drop off a meal like I mentioned. When I walked over, she answered the door pretty quickly. I was scared she might think I was someone else and blow up on me. I sort of braced myself. Poor thing looked drained, to say the least. But she smiled a little when she saw the food and said, "You didn't have to do that." She had me come in. Mind you, I've been in their house maybe once or twice before. Her house was dim, we sat at the kitchen table, her drink was already poured, so yeah. I asked her how she was doing, not specifically referencing anything, and she just kind of exhaled. Basically, she confirmed what most of us were already thinking. Her husband and her sister have been hooking up behind her back. She found out by accident, saw a message pop up on his iPad, and it all unraveled from there. She confronted him, he confessed, chaos ensued. That was the shouting match that I witnessed. But then she started telling me more, and it kind of shifted the vibe. She said, and I quote, "I mean, yeah, I made it really easy for him to cheat. I haven't been emotionally available for months," which was kind of weird. She said some more stuff. I can't fully quote word for word, but basically along the lines of saying she was focusing on herself and knew he was feeling neglected/ignored. And then she says, "But I just didn't think he'd be that dumb." Okay, starting to feel less like a soap opera and more like real life. Then she acknowledged her sister. So it's confirmed, yes, it was her sister. She explained that they've always gone back and forth and claimed that her sister has always been jealous of her. There's always been an element of competition. She made it sound like they weren't close as adults, and honestly, it felt like she had come to terms with the sister part and was just really upset at her husband at this point. She also admitted that she had already emotionally checked out of the marriage months ago, but stayed because she wasn't about to be the one to call it. She said she likes the upper hand in every exit, which kudos to her because she was sitting at the kitchen table admitting all of this to her neighbor. Y'all, I was just sitting there, nodding, trying to take it all in. She talked for like 20 minutes, barely paused, honestly. It started sounding less like a heartbroken woman and more like someone who's been strategizing damage control since the minute things blew up. She even said that she told her mom not to call her sister to make it clear who the family was siding with. But taking into account their relationship and background, it made sense for that reaction. There was a lot of emotion brewing in this situation. So yeah, he cheated, the sister crossed the line, but I'm going to be honest, the longer she talked, the more I realized she's not just the victim here. The whole situation is messy. Every single person involved is somehow in the wrong. And the wild part, I still don't know who messed up more, the sister or the husband. I feel like this was poorly explained on my part, and it's going to get a lot of backlash, because reading this back, it sounds like she's still the victim, but I don't know how to properly convey to you the way she used her words and her tone. There was a sense of evil, for lack of better words, an almost calm acknowledgement of the fact that she knew this was going to happen. Like it wasn't if, but when. After a couple weeks, I decided to give a little bit of an update. The husband's still gone, staying with someone. She rolled her eyes when she said it, so I'm guessing yes, it's the sister. The sister hasn't reached out. She blocked her. I think we all saw this coming. My neighbor's playing it strong. Seems like she's accepted the fact of the matter. I'm just confused and tired. Oh, and one last thing. Before I left, she said something that kind of stuck with me. At least I didn't lose anything important. Just two people I outgrew anyway. Maybe that's her way of coping, or maybe that's just who she is. Either way, it was a whole different version of events than I was expecting. That story was pretty dramatic, but this next story goes from a horror movie to a comedy movie pretty quickly. During a work trip in Missouri, I landed so late that I almost missed picking up my rental car to drive to my hotel. My boss put my hotel about 2 hours away, since it was the closest to where I needed to go in the morning, and I wouldn't have arrived to my hotel until around 3 a.m. or so. I've never been to Missouri, but part of the ride where I needed to go through was a 60-mile long road before the next intersection. I've never experienced driving on a road like this. Just 2 lanes, no guardrails, only a ditch that led to fields of corn, wheat, and other crops. No street lamps, an itty-bitty town that I could drive through in less than 5 minutes. And these towns were 10 to 15 minutes of driving apart. Again, I've never driven in a road, town, or area such as this, so I had my high beams on. I was driving cautiously and slower than what the speed limit might be, since there was other cars zooming on the other side, and I was keeping an eye out for animals that might have popped out. I've also, for the first time, encountered bugs being splattered on my windshield, which was honestly something I just always thought only happened in cartoons and movies. Anyways, as I'm driving, I see a man in the field just several yards from where the road was. I only saw him because of my high beams. It was around 2 to 3 a.m. and super dark. I didn't see a car or bicycle around, and I had just passed the town maybe 5 minutes or so ago. That was pretty far for someone with no vehicle. I don't know if it's a hero complex or just me being naive, but when I see people in distress or someone who might need help, I usually try to stop and help. In this case, it seemed like this man was either lost, confused, drunk, I don't know. My mind was just going crazy thinking that this man might not be in a good place if he's out here in the middle of nowhere. Even though the road was tight, I backed up the car, put my hazards on, and turned it slightly toward the field so I could take a better look. I was in the car and I was hesitant to get out at first, especially because I watch a lot of horror movies, and this is how some of them start. But I get out the car and loudly say, "Hello, excuse me, do you need any help, sir?" The guy's just standing there swaying a little bit, but just staring into the field or sky. "Are you okay?" I say it again, nothing. I debated on what to do next. Call the police, honk my horn, drive to the nearest town, but would I even know where to come back to? So I took the horror movie action of just going to see myself. I went down the ditch and slowly got closer, only to realize it was a scarecrow. I know this could have gone bad if it were any other situation, but I couldn't help but to laugh so hard that I cried. I was genuinely trying to be helpful and got worried, and it turns out I made a 10-minute stop to make sure a scarecrow was okay. But at least it kept me wide awake until I got back to my hotel. The next story that we have is a rivalry between 2 classmates and how he made his classmate swear to get in trouble. Let's get started. A recent conversation with a friend reminded me of an incident that happened a long time ago. In the late 1990s, when dinosaurs still used floppy disks on their big, bulky computers. This incident apparently made me a minor legend in junior high school, though I was unaware of this fact as it happened at the end of our last term and I was moving on to high school. The day started normally. I went to class, was bored, and tried not to get caught staring at cute girls. Oh, and I definitely pretended to pay attention to the lectures. Then gym happened. Amid the Lord of the Flies routines that were junior high PE, my frenemy approached me while dragging his coat behind him. Everyone found this odd as it was summer and already 90 degrees Fahrenheit outside, yet this kid always had a coat with him. I made fun of him when the coach told him to put it away. Can't remember what I said, but I do remember the intense pain when he whipped me with his coat. This garment had thick beads on its cuffs, and one of those bad boys made solid contact with my junk, which made me sear in agony. Before I blacked out from the pain, frenemy laughed like a deranged 15-year-old and walked away. I was not happy, especially since he and I sat near each other in algebra at the end of the day. He was still pleased with himself for assaulting my area with his coat and told the tale to classmates, who also thought it was hilarious. I wanted revenge. My sparse manhood required it, but I didn't know how. Our teacher gave us our final exam, another reason I wasn't happy. This teacher, who was built like one of those roller derby gals, threatened us with a painful end if she caught anyone talking. Something else about this teacher, she hated it when kids swore. Never mind she had a reputation for cussing out parents at parent-teacher conferences, but the double standard was rigorously applied to any poor soul she heard uttering curses in class. Frenemy had a tendency to swear like a sailor, but not in front of her. He also had an odd habit of muttering to himself while laboring on schoolwork, which he did filling out his name on his exam. Teacher scolded him for it, and then he eventually was quiet, for the moment. 5 minutes into the exam, he started muttering again. An evil idea came to my mind, and I briefly lifted my head and said, "Dude, stop swearing." The teacher immediately locked eyes with frenemy and scolded him for swearing. He insisted that he hadn't, and she insisted that he be quiet and finish his exam. A friend across the room was snickering and mouthed noiselessly for me to do it again. So I did. Frenemy began muttering again, and I repeated the false request that he cease cursing. Teacher scolded him more sternly to stop swearing, and he loudly insisted that he was not. She then pressed harder with, "If you swear one more time, you're out of here." Teacher's warnings were always prophetic of what surely will happen if you cross her, and I began feeling guilty, so I decided I'd better stop. Then frenemy looked at me with hateful eyes, and after waiting for the teacher to look the other way, stepped across the aisle and punched me in the arm. Several students looked up when he did this, but said nothing. My anger rekindled. I simply blurted once more, "Dude, stop swearing." Before the teacher could respond in anger, frenemy furiously shouted at me, "I'm not fucking swearing." I should mention that this was a very conservative and religious school, which considered the F word a means of summoning the devil into existence. So naturally, teacher hauled him out of there with much rapidity, and he was never heard from again, until the next day when we all came back to school, and he ended up punching me again. And after confirming that he didn't suffer terrible consequences, we stared at the cheerleaders until the bell rang. Seriously, junior high teachers and administrators don't get paid enough to deal with this stuff. Alright, that story was pretty funny if you ask me, but this next one, this one's really funny. This is the worst first date ever. Let's get started. So I'm in college, early sophomore year, in some Psychology 101 class. This cute Hispanic girl, Maria, sits next to me, and we hit it off. To be completely honest, I wasn't really into her as like a romantic interest at the time, but she was pretty cool, and in hindsight, I wouldn't have minded dating her. She was a commuter student, so we didn't really get to hang out much outside of class. One weekend, she had a group project on campus, so she asked if I wanted to hang out after she was finished, around 5 p.m. on Saturday. Incidentally, that's about the time that I would go to the gym and practice MMA. She knows that I dabbled in martial arts, and when I bring up the conflict, which I had no problem skipping, she suggested she comes with me. This was also prefaced with a, "Oh, but I'll be all sweaty after." "No problem, I'll just shower at your dorm." Fast forward to Saturday, we show up at MMA. Since it's a college-run club at a tech school, we have a wide variety of dude bros there, ranging from experienced fighters to complete newbies. This meant that Maria wasn't really out of place, and we spent some time going over the basics. Our practices were usually an hour and a half to 2 hours long, and we would drill for the first half an hour or so, and then spar for the second. Since I'm probably the smallest guy there, keep in mind 5'3", 125 pounds, and since Maria was my guest, the sparring portion was all me. Now, real talk here, sparring with a woman is a lose-lose situation. Call it sexism, but even if she says that she can handle it, I can't just go balls to the wall, especially with a newbie. If I come out blazing, someone's going to get hurt. Spoiler alert, it won't be me. But at the same time, I can't lose. Call it pride or misplaced misogyny, but if I lose, then it's GG. I won't hear the end of it ever again. So when fighting with a woman, I usually take a few lumps and give a few love taps. I'll go from hard enough to make it clear that I'm dominant, but not hard enough to actually cause any damage. The fight starts and Maria comes out swinging. That's fine, I'll just turtle a little bit and throw a suddenly I'm spinning. Turns out she's done some boxing before, like 5 years worth. Because I'm the smallest guy there, I usually spar with larger people. Think 5 inches plus and 30 pounds on me. Because of this, I've learned really fast that when I get rocked by a punch, I need to, for lack of better term, drop aggro or else the fight's going to end. If I can't get them to back off, then they'll follow it up and I'll lose. So I've conditioned my instincts to immediately counter if I get rocked. It's an unconscious thing at this point. So here I am, rocked. I automatically throw out my oh shit punch and catch Maria straight in the face. And it literally knocks her off her feet to the ground. As my buddy tells it, I started laughing because I know you got rocked, then you knocked her the fuck out. Just for a note, she wasn't actually knocked out. And then I started laughing even harder. Anyways, after much apologies, we headed out. Her eye is swollen, like good luck hiding that with mascara. Like, no, officer, I swear she fell down the stairs swollen. She turns to me and chuckles and says, "Ha, so this was pretty much the worst first date ever, right?" All I could do was a double take, basically like Stewie Griffin replying with a drawn out "what?" In the end, we didn't end up dating, and class on Monday was super awkward trying to explain what had happened to her. Alright, well that's it for episode 1. If you laughed, cringed, or just vibed to the chaos, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, because we're just getting started. I've got way more wild Reddit stories and Minecraft builds coming your way, so don't miss out. Drop a comment with your favorite moment from a story or what you want to see next, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.